So at the end of the day, one of the other things that I wanted to discuss is I appreciate at least that Riot, this is kind of one of their first major rulings, competitive rulings. And as I
Yeah.
said previously, I think it was very mild personally, especially after the release of that video. I would have supported Riot if they had come down and clap back even harder, right? And so considering that I feel like they've learned a lot from operating in League of Legends over the last 10 years, and the precedent that was set in LoL was kind of all over the place. This seems like we're starting at a very low level, right? And we're still waiting on what happens with Sinatra. The people might be wondering why we haven't done a show about the whole Sinatra thing. Well, we don't have the competitive ruling yet, and until that comes out, it's very hard to discuss what was happening with any kind of like finality or context. But I mean, I assume we'll be doing that show whenever that gets resolved, and that's going to say a lot probably about Riot and where the kind of punishment and let's see, investigative thoroughness of the scene is heading, right? But where did you guys feel that this ranked in terms of punishment? Because it seems very, I mean, $5,000 is nothing to 100 Thieves, right? It's
One thing I just want to
nothing.
quickly say is, like, I don't want there to be any kind of a perception that Riot has improved with their investigations and they become more reasonable and they have a standard and a set of precedents that they follow. They don't. Every single case I have seen seems to be capriciously judged based on whether they like the org or whether they don't. So an example from last year would be that the Astralis organization, where the Astralis group owned Astralis, the CSGO team, and Origin, the League of Legends team, now rebranded to Astralis, last year literally were punished by Riot for something mad like withholding pay from players that they owed the players. I believe that was the case, right? And what they did was, even though if a player does something like poach a player or say something disrespectful or have all solo queue games where they've been naughty with what they type into the chat, like go and do not be alive anymore. Those are the worst crimes in the world. You'll get called out by name, your fucking given name on your birth certificate, on a thing on the internet that'll be competitive ruling on front page of Google whenever anyone searches for the rest of your life, as though you were like a fucking felon. It was like, wanted, dead or alive, this murderer, the dangerous James, whatever. Like, meanwhile, when Astralis didn't pay, by the way, one of the most corrupt things you could do in this industry and something you want to drive out immediately, they went out of their way to not name the individual, which not only allowed him to skate by, I was told it was Casper Fid of Astralis, but even worse, because they didn't name him, fans didn't even know in League of Legends that is who it could be, because they don't know anything about the CSGO side, and they assumed it was Deficio, much loved commentator and seen figure, and Riot never helped clear his name. So this is the sort of thing that these people do. Like, if they like you, they do one ruling. If they don't, they do another. Then it's just a negotiation between the two, and whether you're actually got
Nobody can talk to that more than Monty.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, look, I mean, this is a problem as well. I mean, like, just in general, like, I'm on the side of Riot in this stance. I think you have to be absolutely firm with orgs that are trying to leverage huge followings while also acknowledging there is a need for them to be in your esport if you want to grow it, but you can't give them too much. And I think 100 Thieves, and I think they know this, I think they're rapidly entering that elite territory where they get to do what they want, like a TSM, like a Cloud9, like a Team Liquid. They'll be allowed to do whatever they want because, and I almost think this was more a shot across the bows. This was about saying, like, we will punish you, but equally we're willing to get in the trenches and mix it up, and we know that's exactly where we'll be. It's almost like, can we do this a different way in future? Because, as I said, I wouldn't tolerate an organization essentially bullying and threatening my admins.
What's so crazy to me is that the initial ruling was for threatening to do it, and then they really did it. They really did it after that conversation had occurred, and then they didn't actually adjust the ruling whatsoever after that point in time. That's what's crazy to me, is that they didn't just come down even harder.
Yeah, totally. I mean, and when you put yourself in that position, I mean, this is another issue, right? Like, those guys, like 100 Thieves, you understand when they go into that, they're 100% confident they're going to win. Nobody goes into a public war with anyone thinking they're going to lose. You know, but like let's look at the evidence. Like how do you even have that level of fucking like deniable like you already know he's admitted to it behind closed doors. This is what I mean about like I know the book like Nadeshot hates this. The book has to stop with him, but unfortunately I think he's almost like a slacker, you know, team owner because he's had it so easy up until this point because, you know, there are certain groups of esports fans that'll click on any old shit. You know, that's why Gowles is one of the most popular fucking streamers on Twitch. You know, his audience will just watch any nonsense. He has no charisma, no talent. But here it is in Portuguese, so click on it. And 100 Thieves and a lot of these Call of Duty orgs are like that. You know, we don't actually do anything good, but we can mindfuck you into believing in our petty, pathetic, tribalist bullshit. And the rest will all click into place, right? It'll all click. And it's not going to be like that in esports. Not if we actually are able to sort of keep, you know, competitive integrity, ethics, these kind of things. We might not be able to because Americans don't value them, but we'll try. And if we can, orgs like 100 Thieves are going to have a hard time. Your Twitter following don't mean shit on the server, and it don't mean shit when you're talking privately to an admin, or at least it shouldn't. And I hope the next org that pulls this, and there will be another, I hope Riot Games absolutely hammer them. It's the only way these guys are going to learn. But I fully support Riot Games 100%. And, you know, I say that once a year, maybe, on one topic. So.
Yeah, I think their response was more than reasonable in my eyes in this particular instance. And it is at the end of the day, with the competitive integrity concern, if you start showing preference in any way at all, the entire system gets called into question. So you absolutely cannot have that. Otherwise, your foundation of your entire esport crumbles. So I think the messaging that they had was also good. And like I said, I'm glad they amended that statement to kind of counteract what 100 Thieves was saying. I mean, if they had access to those cameras, I'm kind of surprised they didn't just release the whole conversation themselves.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, then they're obviously, well, first of all, if you release a 1-hour recording, no 100 Thieves fan's going to watch it. Who's got the attention span for that? There's not enough Adderall in North America to fucking get an 100 Thieves fan to watch 1 hour of Frost arguing with an admin. And trust me, if there was enough Adderall, Nadeshot would know where to get it.
Oh
so, hey, Call of Duty, we all, yeah. Thanks, Duncan. So, fuck them all. It's a joke. It's a joke scene run by kids now. I don't care.
I'm trying to think. I had one more point there. I was going to say, fuck, what was it? It was just before that. What was it about?
Precedent of the ruling, teams throwing cloud around.
Never mind. Maybe it'll come back in a sec.
How was this received, Josh, by the Valorant community? Was it seen as reasonable, or were people still, after everything, after the dust was settled, siding with 100 Thieves on this one?
It does seem, I mean, I haven't been keeping track. I mean, it's been actively developing throughout the day as well, because they put out the edit at like 6:30 p.m. last night. But it does seem like people have been responding to it in favor of 100 Thieves. This does seem to be the example where the influencer aspect has worked heavily in their favor, because there's a lot of people who are out there on the fans in Twitter and on Reddit who are drilling down to the ignoring all of the blowing things out of proportion and how you acted, and just keep returning to the core aspect of, yeah, but why is your ruling inconsistent? Yeah, but why did you make one decision one day and one decision the other day? Which, sure, that's something that maybe is worth talking to them afterwards in a reasonable way about, and trying to make sure that there is some consistent idea so that you can predict the server that you're going to be playing on in the future. That there is the small core of this topic that probably deserves like a little bit of looking at again from Riot, and maybe thinking, oh, well, should we have it like they play on one server and then they play on the other server for another map, or whatever system they devise. But that isn't what this became. That's not the reason that people are getting fined, is because they disagreed in a civil manner with a ruling made by Riot. That's not.
I didn't see the video where Frost was like, "Excuse me, sir. I would like to calmly protest your point, and if we cannot resolve this in 5 minutes, then we surely
I bid you
will.
farewell.
Do you know I made
farewell. We
fucking
will-
stats helix, you slag? I made stats helix. Yeah. You know what fucking stats helix is, you fucking slag? Don't talk to me. Don't fucking talk to me. Yeah, coach of the year right there. You fucking
I've
absolute
remembered.
imbeciles.
I remember the point I was going to say. This is the other thing. Like I said, I personally am not a fan of that video existing at all. Like basically that didn't need to exist at all. That's just 100 Thieves trying to like basically like muddy the waters of this whole discussion. So one of the reasons why I wouldn't want a 1 hour video to come out like that is, who the fuck knows what those players say? Those players didn't think they were on camera. That wasn't a TV show. They're essentially in the locker room before their fucking game. That's the sports equivalent. Now, in that scenario, there should be like a level of trust that should never be breached there, in my opinion. The things you say and what you should be able to say whatever you need to your teammates in that scenario, not thinking later, oh, is the game developer just going to see all this? Like, that I wasn't even aware I was saying. Like, there's a million ways that could go wrong. People could get cancelled from things they don't realise bad that might be in there. So there's a million angles as to why I'm not a fan of like a 1 hour video or something coming out. So that's why, to me, the people who controlled that coming out was 100 Thieves because they wanted to skew the way you think about the story. That's at least that's the obvious outside speculation. Again, we can't know, can we?
Totally.
Well, do we have any other closing remarks here? Have we gotten down to the core of this issue? There you go. There's one.
That's one.
I think that this is setting up, what is eventually going to happen with the match fixing issue and the Sinatra issue, because this is the start of what's probably going to be multiple rulings in Valorant. And basically what's happened in Valorant, to give an analogy, is that there were a bunch of people back east, right? Some of them may have been criminals. Some of them may have been running away from mistakes that they made from their previous life. The year is 1849. They see a gold rush in San Francisco, and they're all getting the hell out of there to remake their lives and hopefully strike gold. In there somewhere are some good people, but you know what?
Yep.
Not a lot of good people are going to leave, their homes, their families, their friends, everything behind. You're probably running from something to a certain degree, right? To make that decision. And now, eventually, what's going to happen is the sheriff is going to show up in the West at some point in the future. And all we have to do is wait and see what that sheriff does, who gets thrown in jail, who gets strung up, as law and order will eventually descend on the Valorant town of Deadwood, right? So this is going to be the start of something. And that's why it's important to look at the characters involved of the people who have come over from CSGO and other places into Valorant. And then also where the precedent is being set in terms of these rulings and how teams are fighting against them. Because I just have a feeling that this is just going to be the first paragraph in a very long story.
I like the analogy, Monty, but the problem is, from knowing Riot Games, the sheriff in this particular case is fucking little Bill Daggett, played by Gene Hackman from Unforgiven. So shit out of luck there, Monty. What you need is some grizzled old bastard who's willing to go down shooting one last time. Just, take care of all the bastards. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Richard, is that you?
Just saying.
It's essentially
here's
they
the
just shipped
thing.
them all. Go on, Richard.
Yeah, no, sorry. I was just gonna say, I have to really steel myself because, on the one hand, right, I should just ignore Valorant. It's a cartoon FPS that, honestly, it doesn't have the depth of Counter-Strike or Overwatch, but it will be popular despite those two things being true. And because North America just love things being easy, Americans in general, especially in esports, they'll put all their money into it until the next supposed gold rush comes along. Remember how it was Fortnite? How's that all working out for you? Oh yeah, you're dropping your Fortnite teams. But the problem I've got is, I was doing this in League of Legends, right? And here's what you have to go through. And Josh, this is especially for you, mate. What you go through when you want to clean up the scene is you go in as a journalist, you're writing, and it's 14-year-old kids, and they don't even know what journalism is. They've never read a paper, Like they don't even know what a newspaper is, how it functions. They know nothing except they heard some vague thing about, aren't journalists supposed to not be biased? As in, like, you're never supposed to give an opinion ever, and everything you do is journalism. And so what you have to do is you spend the first 2 years not even really tackling the issues, because those moron kids, I mean, the worst kind of kids, there are smart kids out there. None of them have gravitated towards esports. They're all thick as shit. So what you have to do is you spend 2 years bashing your head against that wall, basically trying to explain the very basic building blocks of what journalism is. Then by the time they're 16, they go in one or two ways. Well, 3 ways, actually. They either get out of esports because they discover girls, drugs, and crime, or they discover academia, or they kind of a weird bit of a nerd and a misfit, and they stick around. And then maybe you've got someone to work with. And then by the time they're 18, suddenly they're starting to get the building blocks of what journalism is, and why you're trying to do what you're trying to do, and why these things matter, and why integrity matters, why conflicts of interest matter. And you're the lone voice in the wilderness explaining this. Now, I saw a huge difference between when I first started writing about League of Legends in 2013, when everyone went, who are you, like? What's a roster change? These never happen in real sports. No one reports roster moves before they happen, before the org announces them. You know, all of this nonsense, like, why would you know? I've got sources. Who are your sources? Show me your sources. I can't. I'm ethically bound not to show you them. Why? You're a liar, aren't you? You're not right. You're lucky 50 times in a row. You're lucky. So you go through that, and then those people, like, say, you either whittle them out, and, you know, some of them are morons that grow up, and I get messages from those people, and they say, wow, I used to call you a cunt. I'm really sorry. I was stupid, you know. Generally, you whittle them out. And then 4 years into an esport, everyone understands what journalism is, and that's that. Now, I've done that, and Duncan's done that. You know, what, 6, 7 times now? So to do it again,
it's so tedious, isn't it? I know, thinking of doing
to
it all
go
over
through
again.
it again, to go through the moments. I've already seen him because Nade shot kindly and Frost kindly sent them my way. Just utter morons. Someone even said to me today, I'd hate to be your barista. Don't aim so high, son. Don't aim so high. Hot liquids. And you, being a 100 Thieves fan, it's not going to work. Start at the beginning, right? Let's start with basic physics, eh? So, you know, you deal with all of that, and it's like, the only reason I'm going to put myself through that again is to make sure these people are held accountable. If these people weren't getting away with cardinal sins from other esports, I wouldn't bother, because there's nothing in the game for me, you know? But gonna have to do it, aren't I, to make sure everyone's held accountable, and it'll be the passion of the rich for 2 years. Again, being flogged in public, being told I'm a liar, I'm a hack, I'm a fraud, I'm doing it for the money, all the while turning down huge sponsorship deals and literal bribes from orgs you love. Just whipped and flogged in the streets.
The worst
and
one
I
in the modern
don't get
day.
resurrected 3 days later.
You know this. The worst one in the modern day isn't even the morons just doing that way, like they're trying to argue with the job. It's the ones where their whole angle is just like, you're mentally ill, you're mentally ill. All you're doing is mental illness. Like, why are you breaking down? Why are you lying about it? Why are you mentally ill? It's like, is this just like some mad psyop where I'm actually like in a camp somewhere now, like hell down, trying to get me to kill myself? What is this?
No, but I'll add, first of all, like, I mean, very often the people who are doing this are mentally ill because they're fans, and by definition are ill. So I can't criticize them of calling someone else mentally ill, because I do it every day. But also, I'll just say, at the end of the day, we're at this divergent point where Valorant can make a choice. Do you want me, Thorin, Monty? I won't include you in this, Josh. I'll spare you. Do you want us to be the journalists for your scene, or do you want it to be a number of Jake Luckies? You know, make a decision. Make a decision now. Jake Lucky, a man who literally takes gifts from orgs to say nice things about them, says things like, I think FaZe Banks might be misunderstood in public. Right?
That's a good one.
Yeah, right? You know, do you want him to be your fucking moral compass and conscience? Or do you want people who fight the hard battles? Totally up to you. Your scene will develop based on that decision. It's up to you, 14-year-olds. Go forth, make the call. Either way, I'll be there. I'll get mine. I'll do what the fuck I want. You guys can come at me all day. You'll never stop me. There you go. That's my final thought. Declaration of war on 14-year-olds. Yeah.